This is a network structure. This is a network structure of what we are doing. Okay, so let's go into the packet tracer. Then this is a Cisco packet tracer. So we use this to simulate the network. So on your network, on a network, some of the basic things that you can see is a router, a switch, a firewall, cloud, or let's say the internet or the ISP, those who provide internet. Because we are going onto the net, we say we are in the cloud, and we have end user devices like computers, laptops, wireless devices, and all those things, telephone and all those things. So you can simulate your network here. So on your network, what they do is that wherever you are bringing your data from, so maybe an ISP like Vodafone or maybe MTN is giving you fiber into your industry or into your workplace. What they do is that once they bring that interface, it will always end up behind a router. It will always end up behind a router. So that means that if I'm doing my modeling or my simulation, on the left button where you see my mouse rolling, the first one, once you move on it, you see that it's called routers. So I'll do a router and I'll try and pick one of the biggest, the biggest one. So to the left, 4331. Who use that one? Okay, you let me use one of the smallest. So I select and I dump it here. So I have a router here. Then, like I told you all the time, so let me try and put cloud over there to indicate that. Let me put a cloud there to indicate that the cloud is what? The service from the internet. So once they give you an internet, what they do is that the ISP will come and either they'll come and put a device in your office, or they can connect straight to your router or any device that you provide for them. So I will say that this is my cloud. Let me choose and then do some connection to this place. Okay, default connection. Then in your setup inside your company or as a network admin inside, once the router sits on the border, so we normally call the router the edge or the gateway or the border, because that's where what is sitting on the border of your network. It goes outside. It controls what comes outside and what goes outside. So from the router, we always have a switch. So I select these network devices and I go to switches, and I will select the layer 3 switches. These are layer 2. So layer 3 switches will normally be your distribution switch. So I'll select 3560 and I put it here as well. On your network, you're going to connect your distribution switch to the gateway or your border router. And then you go back to the switches, and then I pick the layer 2 one. So 2960, I put one here, I put another one here, I put another one here. So what this means is that, this will be what our access layer switches. When I say access layer switches, I mean that this is where computers will connect to. Computers will connect to this switch. So this is a default setup for any organization. If you go, they have similar connections like that. Though you meet several switches, but they go through a top to down level like this. So they move from a router to a distribution switch, then from the distribution switch to what? The access switches. So it is on the access switches that what you have computers connecting to. So I have this computer connect to this one, 2 here, another block, 2 here, another block. So the idea is that, so imagine you are working in a company where you have 3 blocks. So you have HR block, you have admin block, and then you have IT block. And then so in your server room, you do these connections. In your server room, you have the router in your server room. You have the distribution switch in your server room. Then from the distribution suite, it is called distribution because that's where you distribute what your network. So the distribution, you go to block A. From distribution, from here you go to block A. From here you go to block B. From here you go to block C. So these are individual blocks. So on every block, this switch here will sit inside the block. And then from that switch, we'll connect straight to the server room or the switch room. So this can be fiber, it can be a UTP cable, that's Cat5 cable or Cat6 cable. It can as well be what? Via wireless or P2P. All you need to do is you should be able to what? Connect these two things together. So these ones will sit in the what? In the block. So this can be block A, block B, block C. But their connections will always what? End up what? Somewhere in the server room. So every network spine looks like this. But we can add several switches to it. Several, like I can have here. So on this, let's say block C, I can have maybe there are 4 floors on this block C. So in the 4 floors, we can have every floor, there are switches on every floor, which will connect to the one up there, so that on every floor, we have several switches. So I can say, okay, I'll do a demo. So let me say I have another block. I have another block here. Let's say block D. And I connect this to block D. Okay, so on block D, I have like 6 floors. Let's say, okay, 2 more floors. For a network admin, you don't want to try and get all your computers to connect to. So you get computers on the 2nd floor, and then you have a long cable, and they all come back to the ground floor. We don't do that. Every floor should have its own switch. Then from every floor, you can connect to every room. So that's what we do. So from this floor, I can add another switch and say that, okay, let me add some empty switch. Okay, let me use this one. Okay, this floor and this floor. So from here, I say, I will not do this to that. I'll do from here. I go here. And then from here as well, I come here. So I won't do from here to here. Let me use the auto. I like using auto. I won't do this switch to that switch. I won't do that. I won't do that. So the reason being that if I do that and there's a problem on this switch, it means that these people will not get internet. So when I do this, if these people are off, I can still have these people working. So it means that on the same block, there are times that 1st floor, they are off, but ground floor is working, and 2nd floor is working. There are times that the last floor is not working, while all other floors are working because of this type of connections. Now, if you do from here to here, and then from there, this side to this side, it means that if there's a break in the middle, all the floors will go off. Similarly, if there's a break in the link between this side and that side, it means that everybody here will go off. Everybody on the down there will go off. So this is what the topology for network setup for several institutions, several companies. This is the backbone. So we have a router. It goes to a switch, a distribution switch, and then from the distribution, it goes to what? Access switches. Switches that what? We can access data from. So with a router, if you don't have enough money, you can actually get a layer 3 switch and put it there. A layer 3 switch is a switch that works on layer 2 as a switch and layer 3 as a router. So that's what we call layer 3 switch. So this is the configuration, and this is how we use what? The Cisco packet tracer. And we work on one switch, and then what we do for here, what we do what we do in my office is that once you work on this, it's a similar configuration for all. Once you work on this, you can replicate on that. You just copy and put here, copy and put here, copy and put here, and they have similar configuration across board. So if you get understanding for one, it becomes easier to work on all the switches. So all you need to do is understand. Try and configure one switch. If it works, fine. Replicate what you have done on the other ones, and that's all. But configuration on this ones will differ some more. This one will do more IP routing. This one will not do route, but the distribution should do routing. Then the router will also be doing some routing as well. So this one will only do just some VLANs. So it will break the segment into two. That's all these switches will do. Okay, so Cisco configs. The config. So once you enter into your device or you buy a switch or you buy a router, you want to configure, there are some few things that you need to know. You know that on a switch, we have two configurations. On a Cisco, that's a Cisco device. We have two configurations. We have the running configuration and we have the starting configuration. Now, the running configuration, as the name applies, what you are running on is the running configuration. So you can be working on your device, you can be doing some editing, you can be changing some few things. If you don't save it, it will still be running. But if the switch goes off, power goes off, and the switch goes off, it means that whatever you have done was not saved. So it will not boot to what the changes that you have got effected. And that's what we call it what? The running config. So it means that on a switch, I can actually come and do what? Type some features on the switch, changes, and then leave. It will work with what the changes. As long as I have power, nothing will change. But immediately power goes off and the switch goes off, it means that whatever you have done will be clear, and then the starting config will run. So normally, if you do a save, then now you are telling the device that now turn my running config into start config, so that when I start this device again, whatever changes I have done will be saved, and then it will begin with the start configuration. So if you want to see it, you show running config, you show start config. It's very simple. So I go into this. I've not connected all these things. We'll connect them later. So let me choose any of them. So let me choose this one. So this simulation. So we want to go to CLI. We go to the CLI, and then we try and enter. Would you want to? So this is the first time. Please enter yes. Would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? I will say no. I don't want to enter initial configuration line. I say no. Okay, once I say no, it brings me here. So you see, I have this switch. It's just like a new switch. So there's nothing on it. So once you connect and you enter, bam, it's an open switch. There's nothing on it. So we'll look at the modes right now. So this mode is called what? The standard access mode. So here you can't do anything here. I don't think you can do anything here. You can do. So if I do question mark like this is a live switch. If I do question mark means that help is the same as help. So if I do question mark, it tells me the kind of commands I can run on this standard user mode. So it tells me that on the standard user mode, I can do connect, I can do disable, I can do disconnect, enable, I can do exit, I can do log out, I can do pings, all these things. I can do SSH, I can open a secure shell client, I can do telnet. If you want to continue, like you want to move to where you can change configuration, so you can type commands, you have to move one step further. So we use the enable command. Now enable has been shown here that if you want to turn on privilege commands. So there are commands that are privileged. So these are just standard user, standard mode. So if you want to use the privilege mode, you use enter. Enable. So once I hit enable, I say enter, you will see that it changes from what? A greater than sign to what? A pound sign or a hash sign. Once you enter into a switch or a router and you see a hash sign, it means that you are what? In the privilege mode. So here you can show your configurations, you can do a lot of stuff. I can still click, I can still hit the question mark on your keyboard. So you do question mark, and it tells you the number of commands you can run on what? The privilege mode. So I can manage a system clock using clock. I can configure, enter configuration mode. So there are three modes: the standard mode, we have the privilege mode, and then the third mode is what? The configuration mode, where you do configuration. So if you want to enter into what? The config mode or a configuration mode, all you do is what? You type configure terminal. Tells you switch, and then you see config. You see config. So this, whenever you see config and then the hash sign, it tells you what you're in the configuration mode. So I'll exit from here, I'll exit from the privilege mode, and I'm back to what? The standard access mode. Any question? So the same thing for my switch, my switch online. The same thing happens here also as well. I do enable, enter. It asks me for a password. We'll set the password right now. It asks me for a password. I enter the password. I'm in the privilege mode. If I want to go to the configuration mode, I do configure terminal, and I'm in the config mode. The same thing. Any configuration you want to do, you should do it what? In the config mode. So I'm back to my white screen. Let me go to enable. I am in the switch. I go to configure terminal. I am there. Now, once you are doing configuration, the first thing that you do is that you change the name of what? The device. Like I told you, we use host name. So you change what? The host name of the device. Currently, the name has not been changed. So it is what? Switch. So all I do is I type host name, and then I enter the name I want to change the name of the switch to. So normally we have what? A naming nomenclature for what? Our switches, our routers, and our servers. There's a way we name them. So every organization will have a way you name what? Your switch. So it could be the name of the block, the floor, and then the number of switch. That's how we name it. So I can say block, maybe block A dash. Is it the first floor? If it's the first floor, I can do 1F dash. Then I say switch what? Switch 1. And I say enter. Hey, this is my distribution switch. Sorry, so I have to change the host name. I forgot to work on my distribution switch. So distribution switch, I have to do what? It will be in my server room. So I'll do what? Server dash distribution dash switch 01. That is, if you have two distribution switch, you do what? 2. There are times that what you can put two switches together. You can nest them together. So this one you have switch 1, switch 2. So for distribution, I will do what? SRV, DIST, SW01. So it depends on the naming nomenclature that you people have. So you have to devise one for your network team. So anybody who is configuring will have. So once you see your devices on the network, you know that what? This belongs to what? You is on this block, it's on that block, is the first switch or is the second switch. So physically, you don't have to be there. Once you know your naming nomenclature, you can determine where that device is. So I'll name it this way. So once I do that, you see that on the left side, it changes. The name changes here. And then I can exit and still exit. When I come back, as long as my machine is on, please, can you see the name? You see the name?
Yes.
Is, as long as the machine is on, I've not saved though. I've not saved, but now this is what? The running configuration. So once I've not saved, it will still be running until I put this machine off and on, and then something else happens. From my slides here, he said that we're supposed to show running config, we're supposed to show start config, and we're supposed to save. Okay, so I go back here. So I say show running configuration. We are saying that we have about the current configuration about what 1 kilobyte, and then the host name is that. We have not done any serious configuration, so we have spanning tree. We won't talk about this. Then these are what the individual ports. Have you seen a switch before? Have you seen a switch? You have seen some before, okay. So you see, these are individual interfaces on the switch. So if I go to the physical, so this port, the port that you are seeing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where you connect the computer cables to. These are the ports here. These are all of them listed here. So it means that you can really check what's happening on every port on the switch. And that's why it's very good to use manageable switches. So the switch we are working on right now is a manageable switch. You can manage each port. You can determine what is working on which port. And this is what we do here. So if all the computers are connected to a port and you know where the computer is, you can quickly shut down or turn it up again. So this show run. And now let's show the start configuration. Show. Let me look. So sometimes if you don't, I've been telling you, but you don't need to keep all these things in your head. With the question mark, to tell you what to do next. So I look at this. So I have something here. So this is it. This is it. So this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm doing. So I go back to I go to show, and I do start, and I use a question mark. It tells me, okay, I can continue. I do a tab to auto-complete. So the tab will auto-complete it. And I say, okay. And you see, it tells you what? The reason why it was not open is what? Startup config is not present. Do you know why it's not present? Because we have not saved any configuration. Okay. So now we can save. Do write memory. So write memory. And we say, okay, and now we can have a start config. Write memory can do shortcut, WR. It's the same write. You can do copy, run to start. It's the same thing. The same thing. So copy running configuration to start configuration, the same thing. So now if I use the arrow key and I go to show start, now I can see a configuration. It's almost the same as the running configuration. It's almost the same as running configuration. Okay, good. Show what is used to what? Display configurations. It's used to display information. So if I say show version, I'm just displaying information. Show version will show you the software running on Cisco. So show version will show you that Cisco is running on what? Your version of Windows 12.2. So quickly you go and check online and see if Cisco switches are supposed to run on 12.2. If it's not, then you have to what? Upgrade your firmware. But you don't want people to hack your system. Okay, so we continue. So I spoke about the access mode. So standard user access mode, you see a router and a greater than sign. Privilege user access mode is what? Administrative view, use enable to get into the mode. Configuration is configure terminal. You need to what? Configure all the configuration on the switch. Now saving configuration, I've done that. Write memory, we have done copy running config to start up config. And then we use exit to log out. So you can do exit, you are out. If you want to come back, you do enter, and then you are inside. So that's for my distribution switch. So just like I told you, if I go back to Cisco, what I've done here, you want to do the same thing over here. But this one, you have to finish configuring this one before you come here. But because we want to move in steps, once you do that, we did only host name. So it's just better to come back here and come to CLI like we did the last time. I would say switch. We'll change the name of the switch to config T. I'll say host name. I'm doing it fast because I've gone over it. This is block A. Let's say it's the HR department. So I say block A, HR. Then I say maybe ground floor, GF, ground floor. Then I say switch 1. Switch 1 on the ground floor. I say enter. And I do, if you are here and you do right memory, it will not work. So sometimes you are working in configuration, you don't want to exit, go and save and come back and come and do configuration. So here you force the right by using what do right. So you're telling the device, I want to force you to what? To save. I don't want to go back to privilege mode and come back towards config mode. So I do right, and it has saved. Once I do that, my name here also what changes. Okay, so that is it. So as I'm doing simulation, I want to change this one to meet what I'm doing. Block A, HR, let me start everything. HR, and I say ground floor, I say switch 1. It's good to use this thing, caps. And I need to change this one to distribution switch. So I do SRV dash DIST dash 001. That's the distribution switch. So the same thing will apply to that, and that. Okay, so let's see what we can do before we close. Suggest introduction. So we set up some common tricks. So you can do shortcuts, like you saw me doing some shortcuts over there. So I can go back to here, this place. I was here some time ago. Let me come. So instead of doing enable Cisco understand shortcuts, you can do EN. It takes you, instead of doing show, I can do SH, and I say show run. Instead of doing show running configuration, I can do show run, and it will still give me what I need. So we can run shortcuts using what? Command the Cisco packet tracer. So okay, so the initial setup. So what we do is that once you are on the distribution, this one, normally we don't do IP version 6, even though that is currently happening. IP version 6, we don't forward traffic on IP version 6. So you want to turn that thing off. And then IP domain lookup, you want to turn that one off, or you want to set it to what? Your company's or DNS server. If you don't have a DNS server in your company, you can use Google's DNS server. That's 4.2.2. So I will say, okay, config T. I'll say IP domain, the IP domain. Okay, I'll say no IP domain lookup. Okay, I do my this thing and see what is going to happen. Okay, so domain, I have 3 options. So I say I want the domain lookup. So I have to type all domain, and I do dash, and it tells me there's name and lookup. I do L, and I'm good. So what I have done is, if you could remember, I think, okay, let me go back. I've done that here. So let me go back to this and show you something. So here, when I do something like this, maybe I'll make a mistake like that. Yeah, have you seen what is happening? Translating host name. This is what we don't want. We don't want to happen. This one to waste your time, and that is why we removed the domain lookup. Or if you make a mistake, it's going to look up your mistake. So it's trying to translate host name, because there used to be what? The configuration that says that you have to look up what you are doing. And that is why on this switch, we try to turn the lookup off so that even when you make a mistake, it will only do this. So let me try and do the same thing here and see what the difference. So you see that here it didn't translate, just so that it's unknown command. So that's why you have to what? Do no IP domain lookup so that you don't, on production, it takes more than 5 minutes before it will finish looking up. Because it has to go to the router, go to switches and try to see if it can what? It can be determined or try to operate on what the mistake. So you turn it off so that when you make a mistake, it doesn't waste your time. Then now I can set the IP name server to what? Google. So I say IP name and I use the tab key to continue. I say 4.2.2.2. I say enter. And I have, so now we can let's show around and see what we have done. What we have done is showing. So I show run. And then we go through the show run. We'll see that now I have this new configuration here. I have that one also there. So the first two we have done is there, including this. So it becomes 3. So any config that you do, you will see. If you do show run, you have to see it. Okay. Great. When you get a switch for the first time, it's good to do this thing. So I say no login server. I have to do and login buffer, all these things. These things, you can have this in Notepad. You can have all this in a Notepad, and then you just copy and dump it into your switch. Make sure it's correct. Copy and dump, and then now you do the editing. It won't change anything. Network administration, you don't need to chew all these things. You have to go online, search for them, look for them, and then you apply. All you need to do is what you understand your network. That's all you need. Once you understand your network, you know what you are doing. You can go and carry whatever configuration you need, come and dump it. If it doesn't work, you negate it, you stop it, and then you do another one. That's all. So no login console. So let me go back to my description. So I was just saying negate. So the last command I used was what? IP name server. If I don't want to use this again, all I do is that I use no to change it. If I say no IP this, it changes. If I do show run, you don't see it again. It's no more there. You only see IP domain lookup. So if you don't want any configuration, you can disable the configuration by doing no. If you want it to run, after typing it and you don't want it again, you just say no. I don't need that command again. When you say no, it removes from what your running config. Then I say no log. No log. The buffer. I don't think it's buffer. I think it's console. No login console. So these two have some issues. No login console. Let me try and open the third one and see if I can show you what it means. So you see this, what is happening here right now? The thing that is happening, this is change state. This is the logs. So if you don't do no login console, whenever you are working on the switch and there's a flap, maybe a port goes off and comes back on, whatever you are doing, whether you are typing or not, it will just show up on the screen. So you don't want some of these things to happen. And that's why we do the no login console. Then you make sure you put the logs, you direct the log somewhere else. So this is it. Login, this debug. So I can just copy, like I've been telling you. I'm telling you right now that all you do on production, or all we do, it's not that everything is in your head and you're typing. You just go and then you come and dump it and you say enter. It works. I'll see a new Juma. So I'll go by it. Login, buffer. And he's saying that 892. So I say 81928 gig 92. Sorry, 8 kilo kilobyte data. So in production, I use debug, but in simulation, they said I can go ahead and say and do enter. So I don't need a debug. I say enter and it works fine. So I save my do right. I save. Okay. So the last thing I would do is the access ports. Access ports. Now on the switch, you can access the switch via what line? So we have VTY lines, VTY for telnet and SSH, and then console ports. So let me see if I can show you something on the physical side. Let me go to the router. In the router will be best. We'll go to the router. If I had a big router, I zoom out. Okay. So if you look at the back, look at the back. This one, this is a console. So you see the freaking console over there, console. I don't know if you can see, but CONSOL.
Yes, I can
That's
see.
console. Okay. So you can connect a console cable to this one, and then you can configure. So if you buy a router, the first configuration, you need to use a console cable. You can't use a normal cable. You have to use a console cable to do that. Then here we can connect auxiliary cables here. We can also do. There are some cables that are connected via what USB. Okay, so that is what for the console, and then for the telnet, and then for the SSH, you need to connect via what a cable. Now, once the cable is connected to this router, you can now initiate the telnet and what the SSH to what or switch. But in production, we don't use telnet because telnet is not secured. So we only use SSH. We don't use telnet. So I go into my switch. Okay, and I say I want to configure my console cable. So I say line console. It's only one line, so it's 0. Line console is 0. I say enter. Once I enter, it tells me I am in the what? The console. I'm in the what? Line. So config line. I'm in the console. So in the console, what did they say we should do? They are saying that we should what? Change the transport preferred, execute timeout, and then escape character. So we are saying that transport, we don't want to use telnet, or we don't want to use any transport. So sometimes you don't want people to connect via console at all. So we say, I don't want anybody to connect, but this is what we use for the console. So console, you won't do SSH, you won't do telnet. What it means that I have to connect what? A cable. I need a physical connection to do what? To connect what? Console. So without a physical connection, I can't connect what? To console. We don't want anybody come and cheat the system. We don't want anybody to come and cheat the system and come and use some telnet and things and then destroys whatever you are doing. So transport, let me see what happens here. This is saying that it's output. Okay, transport output. And I say none. So it's almost the same, but on production is the one you prefer. Okay, I say none. Then the next thing is what? Execute timeout. So it means that exec timeout. This is, we are saying 10 minutes. 10 minutes. What it means is that in 10 minutes, please, if I am not doing anything, I've connected my console cable, and in 10 minutes, I'm not doing anything, please kick me out. Log me out. So that is the meaning of exec timeout. Execute timeout. If in 10 minutes, I'm not doing anything at all, just close the session. That's for the console. And then I say escape character. It's unrecognized here, so I'm not going to use it here. Let me see if I can do it. They don't know it. They don't know this thing. So it means I can't. So what this means in production is that you want to use the escape key. So if you are running and you want to end or want to exit, you can do Control Z and then it exits. So that is what for the line console. Now we come to the line VTY. Line VTY, we have 0 to 4 and V2 0 to 4, and we have what? 5 to 15. They are all lines. So there are 15 lines that you can connect through SSH or what? Or Telnet. But I told that we don't do Telnet anymore. So we do transport output, and I say what? SSH only. I'm good. Then I can do the exec timeout as well. This one, you are online, so you don't want plenty time. You want like maybe 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes is too much. But if I am on my machine and I'm working and I stand up, and maybe somebody comes to my machine, the person can just go into my switch and then do anything he wants to do. So if I do 30 seconds or maybe 60 seconds, let's say 1 minute, immediately I stand up from my machine and I move out. I forget and I move out. After 1 minute, the session has to close. That's all. And I go to the other line VTY from 5 to 50. Let me see if this one will give you 5 to 50. Yes, it does. I go up, SSH. I go up. I say execute timeout 1 minute, and that's it. I do right. Okay, so that's for the lines. Then the last thing we do is the password. So I come back to the config. Now the password is simple. So the password, what you are doing right now is you want a password that when I come here, when I want to do enable, I need a password to enter. I need a password here. Go on your switch. You don't need to do this. You don't need anyone to just do enable and then it goes into what? Your privilege mode. You don't need that. You need to secure your device. So we go back to config terminal and say enable password. Okay, enable password. And then I type the password. Let me say password 1. And I say enter. Now when I go back and I say enable, it will ask me for a password. It asks me for a password. So I type password 1 so I can get in. So even if the person gets access to your like first area, it goes through your line VTY and comes here. At least the enable password, the person shouldn't know. So the person cannot go into your machine. Good. We'll end here, and then maybe tomorrow we'll have the last session.